in the way people conduct themselves. And this is not just about our representatives, it's also about each one of us as human beings. Viewers, Shankar Shekhar's depraved actions, his utter that informs his sense of impunity, is an outrageous assault on just about every desirable human attribute. His act of relieving himself and flashing his private part is an assault on the dignity of 50% of our population, an assault on decency, and an assault on our legal code. It is an assault on our collective values, our heritage that we all cherish as Indians. It is also an assault on the trust that his own loved ones, his wife, children, parents, have placed in him. This man, Shankar Shekhar, is wanted for all these moral crimes and the grave criminal act of sexual assault. His employers, thankfully, at Wells Fargo have at least had the sense to sack him. But sadly, viewers, others like the airline and its staff, that according to the victim, tried to save his skin by effecting a shocking compromise with her, is neither repentant nor taking action against the derelict crew. Viewers, Times Now has accessed messages that passed between Shankar and the victim. The airline got them talking. The victim is an elderly woman. She's a very respectable lady, has a large heart. And viewers, this man tried to brainwash her. Viewers, he played every emotional card to get her to drop charges and change her mind. I regret to tell you that not only did Shankar Mishra allegedly urinate on this lady on board an Air India flight, flashed his private parts, and totter around in a drunken stupor, intimidating her, but he then tried to pay hush money to silence the traumatized victim. We know all this because she said this. And viewers, the airline has half acknowledged it. The police have recorded it. And eyewitnesses have testified to this. But the traumatized victim refused to sell her dignity. Thankfully, viewers, explosive WhatsApp chats accessed by Times Now reveal how Mishra got in touch with the lady, paid her rupees 15,000 and cleaned her clothes and shoes that he himself had soiled in the hope that with this little 15,000 rupees, look at the contempt, he could buy her silence. Can you imagine, viewers? This man thought that his rupees 15,000 could buy a person's dignity. His elitism, his arrogance numbs the mind, chills the soul. The victim's daughter shook her mother out of Shankar's spell and stepped in. She told Mishra how the family was angry and upset with his actions and returned the rupees 15,000. She categorically says, "We don't want your money." This is all in these exchanges. Watch the chat that Times Now has exclusively accessed that nails Shankar's depravity and his arrogance, his elitism. Listen to this.
Received 5,000 rupees. My daughter and son-in-law were very upset hearing the incident. I prevented them from lodging a complaint, saying you were very apologetic and quite unaware of the ugly incident. I wanted to give you a chance to mend your ways. I guess you will also keep your word. At the same time, I was not happy with Air India staff.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll transfer the money as soon as the Paytm allows me to do so in 48 hours. I promise this will never ever happen to anyone from me. I'm sorry. Good morning, ma'am. Clothes and shoes are sent for cleaning. They will be refurbished in a day or two. Dear ma'am, rupees 10,000 payment should now be in your account.
Hello, Mr. Mishra. This is her daughter. She's very traumatized by her experience on the Air India flight. We are very upset, outraged and angry. And we do not want your money. She will be returning it to you by Paytm now. Please do not communicate any further with her.
Viewers, he just didn't leave it at that. Now, while he's on the run, while coward-like, he doesn't want to emerge from wherever he is and face up to what he has done. He is now speaking through his lawyer. And the lawyer who spoke to Times Now, viewers, has tried to turn the tables on the victim. The victim who was urinated upon, the victim who was humiliated, whose dignity was rubbed into the ground, not just by Shankar Mishra, but also by the airline and the crew. Viewers, listen to this lawyer speaking. She's entitled to her defense. Ishani Sharma is the lawyer. She's entitled to say whatever, but maybe she could have paused a little bit to think about what she was exactly saying. But nonetheless, viewers, people are like that. Listen in.
This is pretty much the statement. The statement that you've received is pretty much the statement that we want to give out. See, when somebody gives you some money, you say, no, we don't need it.
Right.
We don't need it. We don't require it. This is not what we are aiming for, was never said. Suddenly, in an afterthought, the money was given back.
Okay, so you're calling it an afterthought?
Of course, it's an afterthought. Have you seen the WhatsApp chats?
Yeah, I did see.
Yes, the eyewitnesses have come to fore.
Okay.
There is nobody yet who's to fore. There's nobody saying that this has happened the way it has happened. So, and also, if there is a man in between, just like normal general knowledge, if there is a common sense, if there's a man in between, how is it that the woman is drenched and that man is just tapping on the shoulder and saying that, okay, you go back to your seat? He is not the person who's drenched. If a man is standing in the aisle and peeing.
So now we've progressed, viewers, and lawyers are clever people. We've progressed to try and cast doubt on the victim's version. The same victim that Shankar Mishra offered to pay money so that he could get her laundry washed. 15,000 rupees, viewers. Imagine if you were urinated upon. How would you like it? And if your tormentor started, viewers, begging you, A, you're humiliated, B, you're appalled, you're shocked that you're being confronted by a violator. People can behave differently, viewers. And all of this happens within 24 hours. At that moment, the poor woman who must have been feeling this small, she's been sexually assaulted, she has been flashed, she has been urinated upon. Within 2 or 3 days, she changes her mind, viewers. And we are now character assassinating. I don't know. I don't know, viewers, if it's making any sense. I don't know what common sense it makes. But it just isn't right, viewers. This is the arrogance of an elite person speaking. Let me open this up. I want to begin with Jitendra Bhargava. Let's forget for a moment that this was an act of an inebriated man. Let's just go by the FIR, Mr. Bhargava. The FIR says that this is a case of sexual assault. Now, Mr. Bhargava, I want to ask you a question. If you're an airline and you have witnessed via your crew an act of sexual depredation, would you cover it up? Would you even try to affect a compromise? You see, sexual assault cases are a completely different league. This is an act of grave criminal depravity. This is not some inebriated man out of his sense. In the past, to have behaved like this, to affect a compromise between a violator and a victim, you tell me. So I think you're on mute. I can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself. If you can just unmute yourself, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you clearly.
I'm sure you're aware that the Air India MD and CEO has addressed a letter to all the employees, where after reviewing what has happened in this particular case, issued fresh directions so that there is no misunderstanding or wrong interpretation in the future. That once you find that the warring groups have arrived at a compromise, there is no need to take it further. He says it very categorically. You are no one to come to a conclusion. Go ahead, file a complaint, and let the law take its course. I think one positive development. The second aspect is one which people have been talking about, that was there an attempt to cover up, was there an attempt to defend somebody? I don't think that's there. Wherein again he has come about and told people that, look, we must try and work it out. And the reality is, which of course is not in public domain, but having been part of Air India earlier, I have interacted with a few people to get to the root of it before coming for a television debate. That one reason why the delay took place was that they had reached out to the affected lady, the lady passenger, and worked out something, and they were in discussion with something, and only after they couldn't arrive at any kind of an understanding was the legal process initiated, FIR was filed, the internal committee was set up to look into the whole thing, and then of course the process will be followed and punishment.
Mr. Bhargava,
like barring the member,
Mr. Bhargava,
as the law provides,
Mr. Bhargava,
for lifetime
did the crew not
and
witness?
Let me just share it. The
one
second
second,
hearing
Mr. Bhargava,
is scheduled for the 10th of January. The first
Mr.
was on the
Bhargava,
4th
one
of
second. I don't
the
know if you can hear
DBFI
me.
was filed, and let's hope this is the last that we hear about it, and such a thing is never repeated.
Okay. Now listen to me, viewers. I want you to just pay attention to what the CEO Campbell Wilson has said to his employees. This week has regrettably been dominated by media headlines of which you are no doubt familiar. The repulsion felt by the affected passenger is totally understandable, and we share her distress. So viewers, here is an acknowledgement of the crime. What is this crime? It's an act of sexual depredation. Am I wrong? I want to ask the two lawyers on this panel, Ishkan Bhandari and Mr. Kothari. Mr. Bhandari, first to you. Is this a sexual assault, and does it fulfill all the criteria of one under the law?
Rahul, the minute you flash, when you go near a female's body and you urinate on her, that's the classical definition of sexual assault. What's left? And when I heard this, that's the first tweet I did 3 days ago, that it's a case for criminal prosecution. But more importantly, there are 2 points. This Shankar Mishra, he's facing an FIR. But the responsibility of the airline crew, they are the guardians of the flight. There is a senior citizen, forget what happened to her. She's a senior citizen. She complains that somebody urinated on me. And after that, she's not even given a first-class seat, which she says later on was available. Forget they're not knowing the criminal law. What level of callousness is this that you tell her to sit on a steward's chair? She is a business class passenger. She sits on a small chair, and later you give her a bigger steward's chair. What is the level of callousness, the level of training which you are dealing with a person suffering under a sexual assault, or at the very least, even if you don't understand sexual assault, a very traumatic experience?
Yes.
That is what we also have to focus on in this case.
Now, Swapnil Kothari, on that point, if the police, now remember, in the air, the airline is the custodian. On the ground, the police is a custodian. What if the police had witnessed an act such as this, and then they had called the victim and the violator to settle it amongst themselves? Would there not have been an outrage? Would we not have all been sitting here and asking for the sacking of the police officials who did this? So why should a different yardstick apply to the Air India Airlines? Can you explain, Mr. Kothari?
Yeah, fantastic question, Rahul. There cannot be any different yardstick. This is an absolute depravity of the worst order. You have 294 obscenity, 354 outraging the modesty of women, 509 again modesty, and 510 again obscenity or obscene acts. Now, all of these 4 sections have been levied by the Delhi police. Now, it is very, very imperative for the airline officials to, as per the DGCA rules, they ought to have taken this kind of a platitude which is given by the chairman, saying that, the media hype that has been created or whatever, we understand the repulsion is all a whitewash.
So,
in my opinion,
so this is what he says.
Should be taken.
We must also be clear on the standard of behavior that is expected on our aircraft and take firm, decisive and timely action as do comply. He goes on to say, whilst the story is more complicated than has been reported, which is a nudge, nudge, wink, wink import at some compromise.
Rahul,
There are clearly some lessons we can and must learn. Most importantly is that if an incident on our aircraft involves improper behavior of such magnitude, so he concedes that the magnitude was big, we must report it to the authorities at the earliest opportunity, even if we genuinely believe that the matter has been settled between parties involved. And it wasn't.
Yes, exactly.
10 seconds.
So what happens?
Exactly.
Should you not
Right,
be
Rahul.
sacked? Advocate Nayak, should you not be sacked at the very least?
I think, Rahul, it's too premature to say who should be sacked or no. Of
Right.
course, we all know that the pilot in command is in control of the aircraft. The cabin crew is supposed to report to him. We don't know what transpired,
Mr.
why
Nayak,
the information
Mr.
was
Nayak,
not relayed in time.
The Air India CEO has admitted that it was an act of such magnitude. What is he waiting for? What is so early about it?
Rahul, just to clarify,
hang on. Wells
yeah.
Fargo has not been sitting on propriety. They've sacked Shankar Mishra.
Exactly.
They must have done it
Exactly.
by applying some mind.
Rahul?
Anyhow, yes. Very
Rahul,
quickly,
of course.
Mr. Bhandari,
Rahul,
very
Rahul,
quickly.
just-
Mr. Bhandari coming in very
10
quickly.
seconds. Rahul, 10 seconds. If this had happened on an international airline, there would have been millions of dollars of compensation.
That's
if you
right.
complain to the steward that you have been urinated upon and they don't even
She
give you a
doesn't want
separate
money.
seat.
I
They
can
say
tell
go
you.
back and sit there.
She doesn't
And
want
after
money.
40 days, they haven't
If
come
she
to a
was,
conclusion.
if her dignity was for sale, she'd have taken the money and forgotten this issue. She's returned it. She's returned it.
Quick point.
She thought about it, she returned it. This is not about compensation. This is about restoring someone's dignity. Now, all of us as Indians can be part of that process, or we can forget about the 50% that we platitudinously strive to say that we bother about. Just think about that, viewers. I leave it at this. I'm sorry, Mr. Vayan Sharma, I've run out of time on the show. My gravest apologies to you. I would have come. I'm sorry about this. I've been told by my director to wrap up. Terribly sorry.